Hello, and welcome to another episode of the From Her View podcast. Um, y'all, life has really been life in, but I just had a couple of things that I wanted to go over and share because life has been lifing, but so many good things have been happening. So let me see if I can do something. Wonderful. Yeah, so life has been lifing as it normally does. And kind of just been like really, really distracted. That's crazy. Okay, so I really wanted to talk about distractions because, like, the enemy is really trying to have us extremely distracted in this hour. I feel myself getting that way a lot of the time, and I really just wanted to have an open and honest conversation because I'm doing the 12-week year of Atomic Habits. It's very important that I stay super focused and on my ball with the things that I need to do. Now, it is February, and my January 12-week year of Atomic Habits, I'm not going to hold you, definitely was not fully giving what it needed to give. So obviously, I went over the things in a previous episode that I'm trying to accomplish in this amount of time. And I have to say, and I've been noticing myself that I'm way more distracted when it comes to the things that I say that I want. Are they aligning? So much so that one of the things that I wanted to do for like the fitness was go to the gym 3 times a week, and I've kind of been steadily doing 2 days, which is not bad. But then I was having a conversation. I have I was having a conversation with my sister. Sorry guys, I'm like multitasking pretty bad. And I was having a conversation with her, and I was like, she's telling me like, oh yeah, I'm going to the gym like 6 days a week, and I was like, I remember when that used to be me, when I used to be in there, crazy. And I had jumped on the scale at work because I moved, and I was like, oh, let me toss this scale. And at some point, I'm going to need to buy another scale. Generally, I don't care about the scale because the scale is always going to tell me something that like, I know my body from appearance. So for the sake of this conversation, I am 5'1.5" ish to right 5'2", and right now I'm like 256, which is insane because it's the literal most I've ever weighed in my entire life. But I don't want to be one of those people that's in delusion and think like, oh my god, I look so good. And then I look at older photos of myself, not even like super old, like maybe a year ago or 2 years ago, and I'm like, oh yeah, I can definitely see the weight gain, especially like in my face. Just how clothes fit for me. I never dropped so much weight where I was like drastically changing pant sizes or anything like that. I've always kind of stayed in the realm of whatever I got going on. But, sorry guys, it's like I'm trying to do my podcast, which is like something important, and then I have like, little business things popping in here and there. It's so hilarious. Let me see. So I know that that's something that I want to do. So just really kind of starting to stick with the guns. So essentially, this podcast episode is going to be the damages of distraction. Right? The damages of distraction. Because I wasn't doing my systems, right? I told you guys that the 12-week year of, is that necessary? I The 12-week year of Atomic Habits, I really wanted to focus on, my five pillars, my five categories: my faith, my family, my fitness, my future, and my finance. And basically, with the 12-week year of Atomic Habits, and with the 12-week year, which lives within the 12-week year book, is like weekly you're supposed to have a touch base. And I realized the whole month of January I not only wasn't having a touch base with myself consistently, but I also wasn't having touch bases with my kids to see what they were doing. And I realized that I wasn't setting aside the time to do those things. So going into, my next, what is it, 8 weeks that I have left, right? 8 weeks, yeah, 8 weeks that I have left, I want to make sure that I take the things that I learned from the previous 4 weeks and not let those bad habits kind of linger on. So even though today I really wanted to go to the gym, I was like, hey, I need to go home. I actually need to do homework. I need to do a little bit of cooking. I didn't fully meal prep like I normally do, which is kind of like, it's a weird little scenario for myself right now, but ideally with fitness, I would be meal prepping all of the meals from the house. So that would be breakfast, that would be lunch and dinner, which the lunch and the dinners are interchangeable. So I usually prep like three different types of dishes. Breakfast is usually one or two, usually some oatmeal or something in there, then having lots of fresh fruit or frozen fruits available, and really like setting myself up that way, which I have not, which I need to. So, what can I do to get myself on the par with that? Because when it comes to some of the goals that I set in that arena, I'm really falling short with that. So um, I'm not on par with it. So even when it comes to what I wanted to plan to do, I can't even find my, oh, you know what? It's packed up. But in my dump journal, for finance, I was able to not do two, but three credit cards, but fork in the road. Okay. I spent some money off of those credit cards, which hindsight, I don't feel too broke down about it, because I'm like, okay, I spent the money, so next paycheck, that money has to go back on there, because ultimately with finance, I do have an ultimate goal that I am building up these habits to do. And so I'm not like too butthurt about it, but it's also something that I'm like, ugh, I didn't want to do that, but it is what it is. It wasn't like a haphazard decision or anything like that. I will say also in the finance area, been blowing up the budget with food. It's just been like so many random things. We've been pretty good about like me always cooking and everything like that, but because my schedule is not as consistent as it usually is, with this new position, literally has thrown a monkey wrench in kind of like how my I flow with my day. So I am a free, I don't want to say that. I am a creative. I like creative liberties and everything like that. I need structure as far as like something to be firm on, but also I know how to color outside the lines, and I know that there's different shades of gray and stuff like that. And so I really like the structure of okay, my schedule is this, and then my kids appreciate it too. Like, my schedule is this, I'm gonna be here at this time. If anybody wants to go with me, this is where I'm going to be at. Okay, I'm dedicating this time to do this and this and this and this and this and this and this, and it really does deem success, y'all, I promise you. But I was doing good for the first 2 weeks of this 12-week year, so I guess I should give myself some grace. I was doing really good the first 2 weeks of this, of the beginning of this 12-week year, and then actually it's only been 3 weeks. Let me calm down. But I was doing really good for the first 2 weeks out of the 3 weeks so far, and then after that, child, it was all downhill. It was all downhill. But I will say that I'm not having complete losses when it comes to my family. Oh my gosh, I'm really happy with that because I'm having more in like meaningful moments, intentional conversations, not only with my children, but like my extended family. So even if it's something small of like saying happy birthday to people on Facebook, which I'm really horrible about, I'm getting to the habit of doing that more. Just texting with my sisters, seeing what's going on with them. Or even, like my sister was like, hey, what are you doing for my nephew's birthday? And I was like, well, we kind of really did what he requested for this birthday. He really was low key about it. And I knew that she would want to celebrate with him. So I was like, yeah, we can go out to dinner. And so that's when I used the credit card. So that's why I'm not that broken hearted about it, because it was a trade off. You know what I mean? Where I'm glad that that money was well spent on making memories, having moments with my family, just like laughing, just having sitting down, having conversation with my sister, and it doesn't involve me doing anybody's hair. Um, and us just like, sitting, laughing as a family, having my children engaged in the conversation as well. That's always good, especially because I'm really praying that they are able to, not muzzle themselves, and to have a voice, and to be a person with an opinion, and being able to articulate it and have dialogue, because that's something that's extremely important in my line of work and in my daily interactions with people. Some people find it very hard to articulate themselves. They find it very hard to communicate. I kid you not, I was watching um, a reality TV show. I was watching a reality TV show with younger girls. Now, mind you, oh no, this was not okay. I was watching a little clip on YouTube of a reality TV show, and you know what is so funny is that I decided, I'm not gonna put that reality TV show on blast, child, because that's not what the point is. But it reminded me of the show, and I was like, oh my god, they're still doing a show. Let me finish where I left off like seasons ago. And one of the things I noticed was from seasons past. Now, mind you, these are not the same cast members, but from seasons past, they were able to articulate themselves and speak and not really use a lot of filler words. Whereas I'm watching the most current season, and every other word is like like I just wish they would appreciate what I'm doing, and I really want them to love this because I love it too, and I know they would be good. And I was like, Jesus, I don't I don't want my kids to be like that. No tea, no shade to those girls. I don't, but you need to be able to say how you feel in a way, I hate to say it, that is digestible depending on the audience, and just to get your point across. Like me, y'all already know from the disc assessment episode, I'm a high D and an I just got fat thug in me. It was very funny. We were talking about it at work, and they were like, "Oh, you said this and you did that," and I'm like, "Yeah." Honestly, there is so much confidence that comes from being a child of God that when someone steps to you with foolishness, I'd be like, "And what? Like, and what are you gonna do?" I'm waiting. I'm waiting because can go one or two ways. Okay, because the Lord been working on me, and I bench press. So what about it? We could do this all day long. You know what I mean? And there's a fine line, right? I don't want to be super immature or nothing, but a lot of times people will test you, and I make it a point not to back down because God did not give me the spirit of fear. I don't know about what y'all got going on, who is your God, but my God didn't give me a spirit of fear, so I kind of refuse to bend the knee to anybody because they don't really control anything has to do with me. So the family category has been going good. My other one, hold up, I gotta refer to it. Oh my gosh. Okay, so faith and future. So faith has been going good. It's so funny because I make the goal in faith. Ultimately, God is in control of all of that. You know what I'm saying? What I got going on, which brings me to this point. I was literally in my time with God, and and make no mistake of it. I've said before, I don't even know what I was literally in here, but anyways, um, make no mistake that God is. Let me mark where I was, child, before I forget. So I'm gonna go back, but okay. I was in Joshua chapter 21, and just to give you a nice overview of what's going on, in Joshua 21, or in the preceding chapters, it's talking about how the 40 years has passed. And it's so crazy because, oh my God, I'm getting so much from this. So I'm just going to share it. Okay, so it's so crazy because, God made the promise to Israel, that his descendants will be as numerous as the sand, and that he has a promised land for them and everything like that. And then we all know all these other things happen, right? they sold Joseph into slavery, but then God redeemed Joseph, and he was able to be the second hand man to Pharaoh in Egypt. And subsequently, he moved his whole entire family there, and they multiplied. One of the things that people like to kind of gloss over, or I feel like is glossed over every time they talk about this, is when they multiplied, you had to realize just from the numbers that they give does not include women and children. It includes the men. So, doing some math, because having multiple wives was a thing that you could do at that point in time, and it's still kind of prevalent, I think, in that region anyway, but that was something that they could do. So me going on average and saying, okay, like, what if each wife had 2 kids? Even though we know that some of these wives was having 6 kids and everything like that, but I was like, just on the lower end, and it came out to be over 2 million people. So Moses is trying to tell Pharaoh to free 2 million people plus. That's just like a rough guesstimate number. Obviously I wasn't there, you weren't there, you know we don't know for certain, but the number is larger than what we think that it is, right? So we know the story, right? Israel was showing their whole backside, while God was trying to lead them to the promised land. So a trip that would only needed to be 40 days actually took them 40 years, and because they were just so defiant, nobody could enter the promised land until everybody died. And let's not gloss over that, because God is a good God. Because look, if it were me, child, low key, if I was Moses and I was like, look, these people hold me up from getting to the promised land, God smite them right now. But he wasn't on that type of time. Praise Jesus. He was not on that type of time. But Moses, because he acted out in anger, because God was running, like, he's still running a tight ship. He is very much so running a tight ship. Y'all think he not? He definitely is. But when you look at the Old Testament, you see how tight a ship he was working without the grace and the mercy of the blood of Jesus. Like, because, child, there was like so many different types of offerings, and it was a lot. But they finally get to enter the promised land. So this is the promised land, that this is the thing they've been waiting for this whole entire time. And while I'm in Joshua, they get to a point where they still have to fight the people that inhabit the land. So God's like, yeah, this is your land, and I'm going to give you victory over your enemies. And it just came to my mind, like, right now, that things may look like you lost, but if you choose not to fight, you just turning your own self into your enemy. You know what I'm saying? God has given us every ability to fight. He will give us the victory over any and everything that he needs us to have the victory over. And so he needed those people to have the victory. And there was a point in time where they didn't do what they were supposed to do. And then it did turn around and bite them in the butt. So they ended up either capturing a lot of the inhabitants of the land as slaves, or they made treaties and they had to live with them, or whatever the case may be. It was a couple of things going on. And now I'm at Joshua 21. And in this story, or this is the towns that were given to the Levites. So everybody had a portion of land except for the Levites, because God said, like, you don't need a portion of land because I am your portion. Which, that's a shout. That's a shout right there. But he told them, like, I am your portion, and like, each clan should provide land for you, whether it be for your altars, for the altar of the Lord, or for the pasture and everything like that. So basically, this is like not the first church, but like the first churches, where God literally dwelled among us, or among them, like through the ark and everything like that, where they had to, wear the breastplate and be dressed in a traditional garb and everything like that to enter into the presence of the Lord. There was a whole thing for that. So this is the Levitical priests, and it's just going over of like, okay, you know, Joseph's lineage, that Joseph's people or Issachar's people have to give this parcel of land in this town or whatever the case may be. So that's where I'm at, right? And then I get to Joshua 21, verse 41. And it says the total number of towns and pasture lands within Israelite territory given to the Levites came out to 48. So they got 48 parcels of land. And it was just speaking to me so good, because God does not make mistakes at any point in time. Everything that we go through is a point for us to learn, a place for us to grow, a time for us to kind of see where God is taking us. Even though some of the things he'll have you do, it doesn't make sense in that moment. I kid you not, I've had, epiphany. But what I liked about this is just that God is in the business of real estate. Like, he literally is giving out land. And I also am starting in the business of real estate, which is one of my things that I need to be doing when it comes to my future goals. But, the total number of towns and pasture lands that he was given, that the Israelite people were given, were 48. And I didn't even pull up, I did not pull up a map or anything. From where I live in like the Chicagoland area. And if I pulled up a map of like 48, towns, obviously, the God is very intentional, because he'll tell you like, oh, it's something was this many cubits or that many cubits or whatever the case may be. And that, I guess I could Google, what is the average parcel of pasture land for Israel, or in Israel. I could go on with that. But I thought that was very interesting. And then we get to verse, I'm going to jump around to verse 43. Well, I'll start at verse 43. And it said, so the Lord gave to Israel all the land he had sworn to give their ancestors. They took possession of it and settled there. And the Lord gave them rest on every side, just as he had solemnly promised their ancestors. None of their enemies could stand against them, for the Lord helped them conquer all their enemies. Not a single one of all the good promises the Lord had given to the family of Israel was left unfulfilled. Everything he had spoken came true. And I literally, I was like speechless after I read that portion, because God lives outside of time, right? So he created time for us. He lives outside of it. But 40 years to him, 40 years to him could have been him just turning his head from here to there, and then it's 40 years. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, time for him is completely different. But it was speaking to me because of one of my goals that I have going on is just, to find um, the home that he promised me. And it was so crazy. I kid you not, like, God is so intentional because I, and I'm not even saying everything that I had wanted to say in that moment. But I was like, oh my God, like I have to record a little something of this for the podcast. And so I'm going through my voice recorder, and I'm going through my voice recorder to, whatever. And I'm seeing prophetic words that were given to me. And I started listening to them. And it was just like so confirming because I'm one of those type of people, like, I can literally go back to that memory, but not necessarily the memory of like through my eyes and my body, but kind of like just what I was thinking about in that moment. And there were some words spoken to me that will not return void. And it was so crazy because like I'm listening to, the word, and in the very beginning, like I remember when I first got it, I was like, oh my God, yes, 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 yes. But then I'm listening to the word, and I can hear in my spirit like they're just telling you general things. Like she's just saying general things, and then she's gonna say something very specific, and then she started saying specific things that I was just like, wow. And I'm looking at the date of when I let me actually go in and see it. But like the date I got this word was October 20th, 2018. And it was just so crazy to me because uh, let me see. I usually try to name stuff, but it was so crazy to me because I he's like letting me know like, yes, you're walking in those things right now. You're living in these things right now. And I can just think back to who I was at that time, what I thought at that time, who I thought that I was. And ultimately, I was just a caricature. I was just playing a role. I really wasn't who he called me to be. Um, I was finding my identity in what I did and not whose I was. And you have to differentiate whose you are, not what you do. And a lot of people get completely distraught because they circle their whole life, their whole being, their whole everything off of what they do. And then it's like when the thing that they do is taken for them, is taken from them, who are they? And it's actually very ironic that I said that because for a majority of us, but for people that were working in the industry that I was in specifically, COVID-19, like what we did was taken away from us. And so you have something taken away from you. So who are you at your core? Whose are you at your core? And this whole journey that I've been taking of getting closer to God, letting go things that are culture, which are learned behaviors or things that we say and we believe that it's true, where when it's not, things like, oh, follow your heart. Well, the word says that the heart is deceitful in all its ways. That If you pick up your cross and follow God, you'll lay down your life to save it. That's what the word says about that. And oftentimes, we go through this life trying to get things that doesn't really hold a candle to God, like literal conversation, intimacy, relationship with God, where, you know, you can hear his voice and know, like, okay, God is trying to talk to me right now to be quiet, of, okay, like, back down, or okay, just calm down and wait it out, or okay, do this, do that. He does direct you, give you unctions, give you feelings of what you're supposed to do, how you're supposed to operate. And oftentimes we mislabel those things as karma, coincidence, deja vu. And on the same token, we mislabel a lot of things for something that they are not. And I don't really, want to go down that rabbit hole. I'm not permitted to do so right now, but there's a lot of things that we label or that we diagnose as something, but really, at its core, it is a spiritual issue. And so I'm just praying that we get ourselves back focused and not be destroyed by distractions. So, if that means that you need to turn your phone off, you might need to turn that phone off. If it means that, like, hey, sorry, I can't have this conversation with you right now, whatever you got to do. Look, I'm at the point where I'm like, let me see when I can take a day off, because I need to get myself back right. Like, I need to take a little bit of time to get myself together. And it may have to be that. You just kind of have to do what is necessary. I mean, ultimately, we consult the Lord in everything that we do. Um, I'm constantly asking questions. I feel like I don't ask enough questions about certain things, but honestly, it's one of those things where, you know, God is a good father. You have to think about it like this: like, do you have to tell your kids how to be hungry? No, they're fully capable of being that way, right? Um, do you need to tell your kids how to go to the bathroom? I mean, how to go potty, but the physical of urination, defecation, no, you don't. They intrinsically know how to do those things. They're most times, unless they have a disorder, but their body naturally does those things. So it's certain things that God has naturally given us the ability to do. And if you know his nature, he doesn't necessarily is going to move on your behalf. He's expecting to be like, you are my child. You know what I would say in this situation. Go do that. Like, I'm not going to keep having this like the first two times me teaching you, okay, but I'm not going to keep having this conversation with you over and over again. Like, do what I said. Okay? So, um I'm just praying that you guys get on your ball. It's very, 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 very important that in 2026 that we take it to the max. Do you feel me? It's very important that low key kind of sit with our head down and just kind of be focused on everything. And honestly, I kid you not, I started a new role, and I was kind of just like, oh my god, like, what are these people like doing? This is not things that we're supposed to do in this environment. I was like really like gung ho and starting to get irritated by it, and then I was like, oh, the enemy is trying to distract me in this moment. I was like, okay, What did the people that hired me tell me that their need was? And let me focus on their need. Their need was not this. It's on my radar, but let me focus on the needs, because that's where the treasure is help meeting a need. And so in this hour, that's something that a lot of you guys need to do. Like, take a step back and focus on what is the real thing that matters, because a fool will set a snare for themselves. And oddly enough, that happened today. But a fool will definitely set a snare for themselves. And at the end of the day, vengeance is the Lord's. And so I try to keep that in mind. Obviously, you know, it's levels to it, right? But I often keep that in mind in my day to day life. But I encourage you to pray for anyone that despitefully uses you, or your enemies, to pray for them, because it's like heaping hot coals on their head. But also, what it does, it creates in you a clean heart, because at the end of the day, the snares, the snares of the enemy, he sets those to harden our hearts, to make it to be like, okay, God, I'm so loving and caring, and every time I'm loving and caring, something always bad happens. I'm always loving and caring to the wrong people, and I always get hurt. So I'm not going to be loving and caring anymore. And then when we set that boundary up in ourselves, we end up shutting out that promise that he has for us, that connection that he has for us. We end up not being able to meet the need of somebody that he blessed us to meet the need for. You just got to be mindful. I mean, bring all those things to the Lord. Like, he knows that you're going to have feelings. He knows that your feelings are going to be hurt. He knows that you're going to be upset about things. Bring bring that to him. Ultimately, he's the one that cares about you. Um, you have to bring it to him. This has been another episode of the From Her View podcast with Sade Camille. And I just hope that you're you're challenging yourself to perform at your most optimal. Because you can do it. You can do it. Until next time. Bye.